This is ACOFAE. Laura Marie and Jessica Marie proudly present a collection of fandoms and exploration, a podcast. Fair warning, everything the hosts say is explicit, full of spoilers and adult content, and shall not be used against them. They have opinions. Let's try not to drag anyone for expressing themselves and just have fun for an hour. We all deserve it.
This episode contains no spoilers and is a spoiler-free episode with the author herself, Lindsey Olsson, of her newest release, To Drown a Witch. Enjoy!
Hi, everybody. Welcome to ACOFAE, your weekly deep dive into the fantasy, literature, and fandoms that we love. I'm Laura Marie.
And I'm Jessica Marie.
And today we are welcoming a very special guest and our new friend, Lindsey Olsson,
who is the author of her debut novel and recently released on July 14th, To Drown a Witch. Welcome, Lindsey.
Welcome.
Hi, I'm Lindsey Olsson. I'm the author of To Drown a Witch and the forthcoming sequel next year as well. I currently live in Pennsylvania, but I grew up in New Jersey. I love donuts, a lot like my main character, Ness. And I also enjoy rock climbing and skiing and snowboarding as well.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time. I mean, with this episode coming out on the 20th, the book has been out for less than a week. How has the whole process been? How has leading up to release date been for you?
So I'm feeling pretty good about it all. Honestly, I feel like it hasn't quite hit me yet. This is actually happening. I feel like I'm very much late to react to such things. So I'll probably be screaming in my home in my bedroom or whatever, 2 months from now about it. So as of right now, I'm relatively calm. It's very exciting, but I'm going through the motions and I'm having fun while doing it. Release has been really wonderful. Everyone's been really supportive and that's really nice to see. And I'm just kind of honored to see all the support I'm receiving from readers and friends and family. And it just makes it all so much better.
And we are so excited to have you. Of course, we are talking about your debut book, To Drown a Witch, which both Jessica Marie and I have in our hands. And this is very exciting. Now, I say debut, but my question for you is, how long have you been writing? Is this something that you have done since childhood? Is this a COVID hobby? Kind of take us through where your love of writing started.
Okay, so I have always loved to write. Literally since I first learned to write in first grade, that was my favorite thing to do in school. I loved the assignments where it was write a short fiction story. And I just took off with those. Even in third grade, I would say I was a bit of a rebel. We were told to write only nonfiction stories for certain assignments. And then my teacher went out on maternity leave, and I started writing fiction and didn't tell the substitute. So I've always wanted to be an author. I wrote on my own a lot throughout school. And I studied creative writing in college. It was always what I wanted to do. It was just a matter of how long it was going to take me to actually reach that goal. So
that is so exciting. Everybody loves a childhood hobby. Oh my gosh. And a rebel at heart too, at third grade. My goodness.
A little bit.
A little bit. Everybody loves a rebel.
And being that you've started so young and continued to, study in undergrad and you got your MFA in writing as well, if we did our research correctly,
yes.
How has that shaped the writing process? Have you found a balance between being more of a pantser or a plotter, or do you find yourself in between? How has that been and how has that shifted over the years from when you started to where you are now?
Yeah, absolutely. So early on when I was writing, it was always just a hobby. It was like, I mean, I had the goal of ultimately writing full books and getting published and stuff. But the time I actually took to write was just whenever I felt like it, when I wanted to have fun, essentially, with my writing. And I would say going to school for writing and getting an MFA, like, really kind of honed my self-discipline in order to get it done, to write an actual full book, and not just to write a book, but to write it again and again and rewrite it, because the first time around, it's never perfect. It's often pretty awful. So I think that really helped me out. Sorry, what was the second part of your question?
Being a pantser or plotter, how has that? Yeah.
Right. So before I was absolutely a pantser, I would just sit down and write whatever I felt like it. I would hop around scenes. So oftentimes they just didn't make sense chronologically at all. But since then, I've kind of found a balance between the two. In my earlier drafts, I tend to be more of a pantser. Like, I'll write until I can't write anymore, or I get stuck or blocked or whatever. And then at that point, I kind of stop and I'm like, okay, where am I going and how do I get there? And that's kind of when I become a plotter. And then so all the subsequent drafts after that are a lot more regimented and therefore make a lot more sense.
Now, how do you organize this? Do you have like Excel, or do you have like something physical in your hands that you can kind of keep everything organized plot wise? I'm so fascinated by this. It is well known that I do not have talent. So talking to people that have talent is wonderful. I love to pick your brain on how do you organize a story like this?
So I admit I have tried using Excel and different like spreadsheets and stuff to organize plot. When I do that, I never actually complete the plot in that spreadsheet. It gets too crammed too fast, and I'm just like, I can't see what I'm looking at. My brain stops working. So I have taken everything off screen, and I'm not going to show you because I'm not going to turn my camera around, but I have a big wall over there that has just sheets of paper on it where I can just write on the wall and put different Post-its and other things that I've printed out. And so I do kind of like all my brainstorming on there, and that also isn't very organized. You can see like arrows that like swerve all throughout the paper, trying to connect different plot points and stuff.
You have the murder board that everybody talks about. That's so exciting.
I definitely do.
That's so cool.
Yeah. But so I do that, and I like to use Post-its occasionally because then I can actually move the Post-its instead of like cutting up my paper and trying to move things around or having too many arrows that crisscross. But yeah.
That's amazing. Oh my gosh, how cool. And actual do you have string?
No, I don't have string. I just have a bunch of different colored markers.
We have the arrows. I'm sure, and every arrow, I'm sure, is like, there's like, is there color coding involved?
Oh, yeah. The last time the stuff that's up on the wall now is a lot of revision stuff for the sequel of To Drown a Witch. And there were different points that my editor made that I needed to make changes on. So each of those points was a different color on the wall.
Organizational queen. I love it. I love it. So again, I keep saying debut just because it's so special and like so wonderful. I mean, we're here to celebrate you and this wonderful book that I have in my hands, To Drown a Witch. Can you take us through your publishing process? What was that like? Was it difficult? Was it enjoyable? And also, a part two to that is, what is your favorite part of that process?
Okay. So I would say, every publishing process is different for everyone. Mine, I wouldn't necessarily say it was difficult because I was set on making it work, even when I failed. It was kind of just like I brushed it off and kept going. So it was more about like the waiting. So like I would submit to agents and query agents, and then I wouldn't hear back and I'd have to wait for months just to get a rejection. And then I'd have to, go back and do some more research and who else could I query and who else might be interested, who's open now, who wasn't before. And so that was kind of, again, not necessarily hard for me to go through, but it was just a long time spent doing this in between working and trying to write as well and doing everything else in life. But I did finally get to land an agent who I absolutely adore. She's wonderful. And then together we edited and revised To Drown a Witch a bit before she sent that out to various editors. And again, it became another waiting game because not everybody's going to be able to look at it right away. And actually the editor I landed with, it just was so busy that she wasn't able to look at it for almost a year later. So it's a long, long time trying to make it work, but it's absolutely worth it.
Was there a favorite part of the process? I mean, obviously the waiting is like probably the part that kills. Yeah, like that part is the least.
It's just... Yeah, it's really, that was probably the hardest at first until, honestly, I got used to it. It was like, I got to the point where I was like, oh, I'm not going to hear from this person for 3 to 6 months. I'll just, check back then. My favorite part of it, though, was, honestly, it might have been when I did sign with my agent. Just because she did a call with me beforehand to kind of discuss everything and like her process and what she loved in the book and what she thought it could do. And just from that conversation, I was really excited to work with her. So when we finally made it all official, I was excited and pleased. And I really felt like it could go somewhere. Like I could finally make my writing dreams come true. So.
No, we love dreams coming true. Oh my gosh. What is the editing process like? Is that enjoyable for you or is something that you do not like?
It depends.
Fair.
That might be a cop-out answer, but it definitely depends. Sometimes it's, I might be a little weird in that like I actually really like getting criticism. Even if at first, like there's times where my editor or my agent or somebody else has said like, oh, I think you need to rework this part. Like, I don't like it, or I think you should take it out. And like my heart goes, oh, I love that part. How could you say that? But like sometimes a week later or even like just 24 hours later, I'm like, oh, you know what? They kind of do have a point. So like sometimes I really enjoy going through the editing process, and because every step of the way, it's just trying to make it the best that it can be. And everybody who's giving you this advice wants that for the book. And that's really nice to know and kind of helps me go forward with that. On the flip side, there's also times where I don't want to do it because I'm kind of tired of it. And I'm like, why can't we just be done already? And I'm tired of looking at the same writing over and over again because, To Drown a Witch had like 10 plus drafts. So
were there things that you would put your foot down about regarding editing feedback and comments? If, like you said, there was like, oh, but I really liked that part. Were there some that made you think, okay, I'm going to fight for this scene? And I know we're keeping this spoiler free since this episode has come out less than a week, but were there things that made you feel like, oh, but that there is a significance to this part, that I understand your feedback and I hear you, but here is, you've already shared that there is a book 2. Like there is a significance to that that was going to connect into book 2.
Yes, there were a few instances where that was the case. And in that regard, I made sure I took the time to like really listen to the criticism first and like try to see their point of view. And I feel like afterwards, I would go back to them and be like, okay, like, I hear what you're saying. Like, this part isn't working, but I really still need this detail and I need this specific scene because of this, which I don't think you know already. And if you did know, is there any way, like, that you think we could still use this scene maybe later on in the book, or like change it up and maybe add another character to this scene to help it grow a bit? Like, I'm open to other suggestions for how to make it work in the novel currently, and so that we can keep it.
You're so much better than me. I get so defensive with criticism. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, how dare you? It's my work.
Meanwhile, I'm like, I'll have my boss, I'd be like, oh, so how did this thing go? And he was like, no, it's great. Keep doing what you're doing. And I'm like, no, I actually want the criticism so I know I can get better to get to that next thing. And I remember it happened a lot when I started in my career. And now I'm like, okay, whatever, whatever you need to do to get the process. But yeah, I feel like there is a balance between me and Laura. We're like too extreme sometimes. But I'm like, with you, Lindsey, we're like, okay, let me sit with it for a second. And then, okay, you're right.
Yep.
That's too funny. That's too funny. Oh my gosh. Well, it takes all types, right? All types. Y'all are better than me. Better than me. All right. We have discussed your process, your time as a writer and your publishing and how you organize everything, which is just like so cool. You are the murder board queen. Let's talk about your characters. So where did this story come from? Like, what inspired this story? And kind of on the flip side of that is, did these characters like shout themselves into existence in your brain and like you just had to get them out? Or was there another process that you discovered them?
Yeah. Okay. So first, the idea for To Drown a Witch actually came from a writing prompt session while I was in grad school. And it wasn't a typical prompt session in that we were given a poem, and I wish I could remember what the poem was. I've scoured my notes. I can't find the name of it anywhere. But we were given a poem and told to read through the poem and try to draw inspiration for some sort of story from the poem. And I remember one of the lines in the poem had something to do with like the trees. And so that was how it came to be, that was how the prologue came to be in To Drown a Witch. And that was just, it sprouted in my brain of magic hiding in trees and what would that world look like and why would that be and who would be in this world, and then what if there was one person who actually had magic and everybody else didn't. So that's where that came from. And then as far as the characters, so I have two main characters, Ness and Torin, and you get both their points of views in this book. Ness definitely was a character who shouted to me. She was rather insistent, but she was also the more difficult one to write. Even though she was so loud, when I tried to write her the first time, I hated her. I hated her on the page. She was just whiny and annoying, and I was right off the bat, I was like, this is not the right story. This is not her. This is not the person screaming at me in my head. Like, I gotta fix this. I gotta totally scrap this early draft and try again. And so I did, and slowly but surely, the Ness that you find in To Drown a Witch is the one who came onto the page. Torin, on the other hand, he was actually a lot easier to write, which I don't know if that's surprising or not. It was kind of surprising to me looking back. But he was not shouting at me. He was much quieter. He kind of just like slipped in there and is like, here's my story. Do with it what you will. So yeah. And I think he was probably the easiest to write because I was so, like, I knew his backstory so well right away. Like, there was actually a time where I had written what was his backstory into the novel as like a present scene. But ultimately that didn't make sense to keep in. And it was just ended up being told throughout the novel. But yeah, so that's how the two of them came to the page.
I'm surprised to hear that the character that was shouting at you the most, Ness, was the one who was difficult. Like usually that's where you hear that's where all the word vomit comes in. That's where the pantsing comes in. Like, let me just dump all of this information that I know on a page. And especially when the character's shouting and then you're like, wait a second, she's still shouting at me, but I don't know what she's trying to say.
Yeah, it was really strange. It was more like she was shouting at me. And then, so I was writing everything I could down on the page. But the problem was that I was writing everything. So I was like putting in all of the little, her vulnerabilities a little too much at first. Like I needed to weave those into the novel rather than just dump everything at once. And kind of like figure out what she would actually hide rather than what she was, telling me.
So something that I find very interesting is the world building here. So not only do you have a world where there is magic hidden in the trees, but the city that we're in, the area that we're in is divided up into different like sectors, I would say, and different areas. And we're traveling through all of them, and there is like an energy to the populace, like something is going on. We're looking and searching. What was that like, kind of like putting the foundations of this world together? I know you said you started with the trees, but there's a very rich kind of world that we have that you've created here. I'd like to know a little bit more about that.
Sure. So that was so much fun for me to do. I love world building and just creating worlds and even just like naming things. Like I had so much fun naming the countries and their capital cities. Like I did a whole world map. I did a whole city map and I was like labeling everything. And I was like, oh, this has to go over here and this has to go over here. And oh, they need a river through here because they need some water. Like I just had so much fun doing all of that. And I think the more I put into it, the more real the world felt to me, which I think really helped flesh out not just the world and the setting and the novel, but like really helped flesh out the characters and the story for me, because where they are and what they're doing in the at that time, I think is really, it connects a lot to the setting. So.
Oh, that's awesome.
We've been talking about the characters. We've been talking about the inspiration. Set up this book for us. We know what it's about. We know the summary. Like, share with the audience, like our big summary, why we're excited, like to go on this journey and adventure with Torin and Ness. And I'm so sorry if I missed this in the beginning, if that's how you set it up earlier.
Okay, so let's see. So To Drown a Witch follows both Ness and Torin. Ness is working for kind of like a crime boss in the slums of the city. She's working for him specifically because she made a deal with him to get her father out of prison. So that is her ultimate goal, to get her father out of prison. But we'll just say things don't exactly work out the way she wants them to. And Torin, on the other hand, the other point of view in the novel, he has experienced some loss in his recent past, and he's kind of really spiraling from that. So he is kind of given a second chance. He works for the king, and he's been given a second chance by the king to hunt the witch. And in this world, as Laura mentioned, there's magic within the trees, but there's also magic in one specific person, and that person is known as the witch. And in this country, everybody wants to find the witch and kill her because she is dangerous, and the magic within her is dangerous. The problem is, once you kill her, she is then reborn in the next generation because the magic refuses to die. So Torin is tasked with hunting the witch. And then he meets Ness, and through some circumstances, he learns that Ness has this uncanny ability to sniff out magic. So she's essentially a magical dog, sniffing dog. And so Torin thinks this is the best thing ever that he has found her. And he kind of coerces her into teaming up with him so that both of them can find the witch, promising that he will free her father from prison. And so this kind of starts their adventure through the city together. But it's not exactly the easiest adventure because, somebody keeps murdering all of the guards in the city, which is how they really know that the witch is there. And yeah, things progress and things happen, and there might be a little romance or a lot of romance. Who's to say?
Shenanigans ensue. I have a question, and it is something that I found just so incredibly interesting. Okay, so within this world that you have created, there is a religion, and this religion is the goddess Nephel. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, Nephel, and the great goddess of all. And it is through this religion that the drowning of the witches kind of is sanctified. It's kind of how they reason with everything.
Yeah.
And there's a line that I just found so interesting. They say, these are the only words from the goddess that we know for sure are like actual like facts. And it's just those like few sentences about like the magic and the goddess and all of this stuff. And yet, for all of the parts that we have in our book here, we have the Lost Holy Book. We have little, I would say like little scraps of knowledge here. So we are building upon this religion. So my question for you then is something along the lines of, what importance do women have in this society with magic? Because it strikes me as so important that everybody worships the goddess, and they imagine that the witch has stolen magic from the goddess and it must be returned. And I just find that this focus on women is important.
Was there a question in there? Because yes, you're right.
Yes. So I guess to like whittle down, my question would be something along the lines of, it's always men out there persecuting the women, isn't it? There's always something that is there. And later on in the book, when we have a confrontation and Ness says, "You are scared. You're just scared." And our person says, "Oh, blah, 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 blah. No, I'm not." That kind of just reframed it and put everything kind of into focus for me. Mm-hmm. Like, wow, this world that you have created has this like skewed kind of view on things. And my question for you then would be, this religion that you have created, did you come to that? Was that like fully fleshed out? Or when you started book one? Or is that something that you were like building as you go?
So that was something that I definitely had to build as I went. I knew there would be significance with a religion of some sort. And there had to be a reason why they were drowning women as suspected witches, and doing so frequently. And I think it really, like, the idea of the religion and the dynamics between the men and the women in this world and the women being drowned really stemmed when I kind of like, I can't even remember how it happened, but I was thinking about power, and it was simply just that anybody with power is essentially terrified to lose it, and they don't want somebody more powerful than them coming in to take that away. And so that's kind of where this all stemmed from, and that the goddess has had power taken away by the witch. And so everybody's like, oh no, she stole the goddess's power. That's not good. We have to give it back. But at the same time, like, by having one person have all of that power, like a goddess's power is a lot of power, like they're threatened by that as well. Because, you know, like they worship a goddess, but they also believe that she is benevolent to them and would take care of them, but also has, you know, there's distance there. Whereas the witch is in their world and she is the greater threat.
That's excellent. That's such a good answer. Tangible, right in front of us, right? Like that is the threat. Oh, you're so right. That's excellent.
Just, I'm sitting with that because I'm just thinking of just religion as a whole in general. And, you know, of course, everything, even with the drowning of, I'm just thinking of history because I'm thinking of the burning of the witches. I'm thinking of the Salem witch trials, you know, and there's just there is, a level of fear that the patriarchy in general has of women and the power that we bring, and also kind of calling people out on their bullshit that is so prevalent in this book.
And it's wonderful. It's also like kind of, I don't know. There's this feeling of like change. I don't know. It's just, I feel you said book 2 and now that's all I can think about. I'm so excited. So we're still in book 1. We are focused. We are locked in. Can you tell us about some of the tropes that you sprinkled in here? I know there's enemies to lovers, but what else do we have? They're all so fantastic.
Yes. I had, let's see. The first one that comes to mind is I had to have a only one bed scene. That actually, I will admit that changed a few times throughout the drafts, but to ultimately get where you are. But there was always one bed. It was just a matter of the situation. What other tropes are there? I mean, I always wanted, I don't know if this is necessarily a trope, but I also always wanted Ness and Torin in separate instances to essentially have a moment where they save each other. Where the one is vulnerable before the other person. And that other person kind of has to step up and be the strong one for them in that moment. So that was always fun to think about and to put on the page. And gosh, what else? What other tropes?
I would also say something like forced proximity. Like we have to work together, right? We are forced. And there are moments when Torin is like, gosh, I haven't seen Ness in a couple of days. Like, I shouldn't, you know, the pining, the yearning, just a little. And then of course at the end we have like the ultimate kind of I don't want to say trope, but like twist that kind of took me by surprise at the end, but we'll get there.
Yeah, no spoilers, remember?
Yeah, no spoilers.
Well, and this is for you. This is for the audience because we want everybody to be as excited about it, but we don't want to ruin it for them because that's just, it gets everybody excited for book. I mean, again, Laura even said, she's like, we have to rein it in for book 2 because I had a question about it. But we also, yes, we have Torin. Yes, we have Ness, but we also have side characters that are just as important. Did they speak to you as well? Or after you had your 2 characters kind of like, I need to be on page, is that when you were like, okay, let me identify these other characters that play a role in this book?
Mm-hmm. I think it was more, not necessarily let me identify the characters who play a role in this book, but let me identify the characters who are important in the lives of Ness and Torin, and kind of figure out what their stories are and where they line up with Ness and Torin's story, because ultimately it is Ness and Torin's story. They are side characters, but they also... I don't know, any good side character has their own life, whether or not you see it on the page. So, yeah, and then from there, it was a lot of fun diving into their backstories, particularly Suri. I love Suri so much as a character. She's Ness's friend for the listeners there. And unfortunately, there's only so many words you can fit on a page. So, like, there's so much more in my head for these side characters than you actually get on the page. And that's just unfortunately the way it has to be, unless, they get their own story, but I don't know about that. So.
But, that's okay, though, because they are so strong and they stand on their own, which is like so wonderful and like such a great side character. But also, they function as a best friend to our two main characters. And I do find that it is important that our female lead have somebody that isn't the guy in her life to kind of like have just to show another facet of her life, that this is not who she is all the time with this gorgeous man. But there's more kind of going on there, and there is a friendship, and it's so important to have a friendship and to not lose that friendship as you go on, and to kind of like work through difficult patches and to rebuild. I find that so important in a female friendship. And then you have it on the other end, which is not represented usually as much, which I found to be so wonderful, is the friendship that Torin has. And that friendship with Quint is, I think, really special because they have one specific conversation that I found to be really wonderful. And that is when Torin was hurting so badly for so long, and his bestie goes, I coulda, I shoulda, I coulda, and I shoulda. And Torin is like, you shouldn't have to. But we're friends. That's what friends do. We lift each other up in their dark times. And it was really wonderful to see a positive representation of that in a male relationship. Mm-hmm. And they're not just like bros beating the chest, like we're talking, we're working through, we're acknowledging faults, and we're moving on together. I mean, mm-hmm. Healthy men, who knew?
They do exist, I promise.
Yeah. Who knew?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I was focused on a lot while writing this book is the relationships, not just the romantic relationships, but also the friendships as well, as you said. And yeah, I wanted to display a friendship for Ness that felt genuine and felt like Suri was a real character as well, and not just someone who essentially was a sidekick for Ness. But at the same time, I also wanted to stay true to Ness's character, and that like Ness is also she likes to keep her distance from people because she has it in her head that once she frees her father from prison, she's going to leave and she's never going to see these people again. So while she has this friendship for Suri, it's kind of against her will, and it kind of just therefore became more of a natural friendship that they slowly built, or at least that Ness is slowly opening to. And then on the side with Torin and his friend Quint, again, I have always found it strange that there's not like a lot of male-to-male friendships in books, or at least not that many that I've read, or at least what you see is, as you mentioned, just like guys being bros, which sure, that happens. But I think also more realistically, it's especially if the guy has gone through a lot of trauma, I think it's very realistic for that to be brought up, whether subtly or outwardly. It's going to come up in the friendship at some point. Like, you can only ignore that for so long. And if they're a true friend that you have, then they will help you address that.
Were there any characters that you found yourself relating to more, or do you feel like you've kind of sprinkled yourself a little bit into each of them? Or like, how does that work on your side of things?
I would definitely say I sprinkled myself into each of them. I already mentioned I gave Ness my love of donuts. So that was an easy one. But
Maple and blueberry specifically?
No, actually. I am a big fan of raspberry, so I tweaked it a little bit.
Do you have a favorite, like, viral donut place that you've explored? Like, how they have, like, Duck Donuts and Voodoo, like, or are you just like, I'm happy at a Dunkin'?
Yeah, exactly. I'm happy at a Dunkin'. There's even some grocery store donuts I'll do, so, like, whatever works in the moment, I will never say no to a donut. Yeah, and I don't know. Who else? Let's see. I mean, I would like to think my friends would have to chime in and say otherwise, but I would like to think that I am there for my friends in hard times, and I can be someone that they listen to or talk to rather, and open up to. And yeah, and like I feel like Suri is also the kind of person, the kind of friend who's a little more up for anything, and is willing to meet you where you are. And I feel like I can do that a little bit sometimes too, hopefully. So
something that you created in the world of To Drown a Witch, which I just love. I'm just going to be honest. I love this, is that, people can drink diluted magic and maybe something happens, maybe. And one of those things that maybe might happen, I don't know, in this book could be, is that somebody starts throwing up money. And let me tell you, finally, somebody did something practical. Oh my God. Incredible. I was like, yes. Is there someone that's going to throw up jewels too? Let's do this. Like, it was great. It was surprising and fantastic. And like, finally, this like practical application of this thing. Like, again, I'm very corruptible. Don't give me any power whatsoever. But if I had that one, ooh. Mm-hmm. So hats off to you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that, I had a lot of fun, again, brainstorming like the different reactions people could have to consuming diluted magic. But whenever I was brainstorming that, I always wanted to keep in mind that like, it's like people want to have magic, but at the same time, the magic doesn't necessarily want them, if that makes sense. So they will have a reaction, something will happen, but it might not always be something good. So like you said, like throwing up money, like, yeah, that can be great. You have a whole bunch of extra money. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, but it can't just be you spontaneously have money. And I'm like, you have to, it has to take something from you. Like, it can't just be easy. It has to be a little gruesome. So that's how I came up with throwing up the money, because like nobody loves throwing up. Everybody hates that. Like, that's one of the worst things that you can happen.
I think I could tolerate throwing up if it was for money, though.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think
I'll deal with it.
I'm not sure everybody would agree, but especially, I mean, you got to think, like, this isn't just paper money. Like, these are hard coins. Like, that's got to hurt. Or at least that was my thinking.
It's fine. I'll deal with it. You got all the money for the doctors. Like, it's fine. It's fine. Again, I'm corruptible. Don't give me power. Again, a fantastic little detail that you just added in there. Just really wonderful. Now, towards the end of this book, there is a twist. And oh, is it good? Oh, is it good? I was sitting there like, oh, no. And then towards the end, I was like, oh, it's gonna go this way. It did not go that way. I was wrong. And that's to you. That is credit to you. I was like, oh, this is no. Oh, okay. And then, there's a character that we have not mentioned here that is mentioned steadily throughout the book, like a little current going through there. And that is the prince. There is a prince of this world that you have created. And he is like kind of the primary reason that this king is like so adamant about the witch. Now, I love that this prince is in the background of most of this book. I have read this 2.5 times now. So I have very much enjoyed catching like all of these little threads that you have put in here. So by the time we get to the end, I'm like, okay. I can maybe. And then of course you answered my unanswered question, which was, is there going to be a book 2? So my question for you now, because we're kind of wrapping towards the end, is how has book 2 been? You have mentioned it. Does it exist? Have you written it? I don't want details because this is your baby and we are here for book 1, but I am a little curious.
And I'm going to, double up on that, asking, like, did you also always knew that there was going to be a sequel in this writing process?
Okay. So yes, there is a book 2, and it is actually complete, at least on my end, it is complete. So yeah, it's just, some technical things and other small little edits we're working on now. And yes, I always knew there would be a book 2. I admit at one point I toyed with additional books after that, a longer series. And that was a lot of moving parts to think about. And a lot of things that just I didn't feel like I could bring to fruition well enough or just exciting enough. And yeah, so it is a duology. And the second book will hopefully come out next July. Sorry that you have to wait so long.
That's so exciting. Oh my gosh. Well, congratulations in advance for that. That's incredible. Wow.
Thank you.
Wow. Now, before we wrap, Jessica Marie and I have a little confession, and that is that we are also both from Central Jersey.
Really?
We had rapid fire. We were like, wait, how can we've picked your brain enough, but we have some rapid fire questions that we thought we can have some fun with. The first most important being Central Jersey. Does it exist?
Of course it exists.
What is this conversation?
I grew up there. Like
controversial opinion.
You grew up there. I know people say it's controversial, but like
people from Central Jersey are like, why is it a controversy? It exists.
Yeah, it doesn't fit in North. It doesn't fit in South. Like you go an hour north, it's very different. You go an hour south, it's very different. So clearly, if they're both different, then the middle exists.
Yeah. Taylor ham or pork roll?
I hear this debate. I mean, I want to say Taylor ham, but like I don't really care too much. Debate, I'll leave.
I know. Parkway or Turnpike?
Oh, if I had to pick one to drive?
Yeah.
Turnpike.
And then final one, do you prefer going to the beach or going down the shore?
Going down the shore.
Well, thank you for just like humoring us, because we were like, wait, we have so much to like. We're
like, fellow Central Jerseyan.
Otherwise, it would just become like a Jersey podcast. But that being said, like this is your episode. Just like, where can we find you? Where are your socials? We know we'd love to share with the audience, and like where all we can be continuing to be excited about not just this release for To Drown a Witch, but also for book 2 and all the other projects that you have forthcoming in the future.
Yeah. So I am definitely most active on Instagram, and that's just Lindsey Olsson, author. I also have a Facebook. There's some crossover there. And I have a website, lindseyolsson.com. So anybody can message me on any 3 of those platforms. There's a little contact form on my website. Yeah. So I think that's kind of the main way to reach out to me. Yeah.
Awesome. And I know, and this episode is coming out after release, but I know you are doing a release kind of event that's very exciting. And since we're recording before that, I wish you all the luck there. That will be just the best. I just know it.
I'm really excited about it. Yeah. I think it'll be a lot of fun.
Excellent. Well, again, thank you so much for taking the time. We really appreciate it. And yeah, this has been the best. Again, we're discussing To Drown a Witch. Out now.
Thanks so much, and we'll talk to you soon, Lindsey.
Thank you both.
Bye. And as Lindsey mentioned, make sure you're following her on all of her socials. We'll make sure we have those in the show notes. And of course, please feel free to follow us on Instagram. We're at ACOFAE Podcast. We're also both on TikTok, ACOFAE Laura and ACOFAE Jessica. Please make sure you're giving and rating us 5 stars on all of your listening platforms. We'd so greatly appreciate it. Thanks so much, and we'll talk to y'all soon. Bye.